Derby discussions with Dubs. Our guy Dubsy Anderson returns to the SportsGrid network to get you set for the 2024 Kentucky Derby. He is live in Los Angeles doing great work right now for FanDuel TV. Of course, our partners were on FanDuel. All the great stuff with Dubs Anderson making his return. And we get set for the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby, the first Saturday in May tomorrow. Dubs, we sincerely appreciate you waking up bright and early, but I know race weekend at Churchill Downs starts on this Friday, so you had to be up and at 'em. We're glad to have you back.
Yeah, great to see you, gentlemen. Shout out to the whole team there at the SportsGrid. Missing everyone behind the scenes there. But look, this is as good as it gets for a sports fan on the wagering side of things. The 150th running of the Kentucky Derby coming up on Saturday afternoon. I feel like we don't have as much drama as we had last year, but we certainly have a couple of young superstars amongst the 3-year-old division. But hey, there's a lot of unknowns. And as we've seen the last 5 years, a couple of big prices can come through because all these horses are still trying to find that top gear. You look at their resumes, and there's not a lot to draw from. So I think we could see a couple of numbers coming up.
Dubsy, I'm sure there's plenty of folks that watch the early line, that pay attention to the SportsGrid network or FanDuel TV, that know all about horse racing and how to correctly wager on it. But maybe for some of the amateurs like myself, we'll go piece by piece here. We'll get your best process on how to bet the Derby, and then we'll talk the actual horses, format of the race, and those favorites like Fierceness and Sierra Leone. So let's start with explaining how to bet the Derby, the exotic wagers that people know, like the exactas and the trifectas. What is your process for when it comes to getting down wagers on the Kentucky Derby?
Yeah, I guess it's like any other sport. We look at the past performance, the situational trends of coming into today's race, and then with conditions. What are we actually getting into? The distance, the Kentucky Derby, they'll be going 1.25 miles. It's distance runners have never been, so that's a bit of a question mark with that stretch out. You look at the surface. Not every horse does well out there on the dirt. So then you draw on the pedigree ratings. You can look at speed figures like we look at player ratings or ERAs for your starting pitches when we try and stack up a lot of these horses exiting different races coming into a big one such as this. And there's obviously what changes coming in. Is this a trainer who's done really well in this situation in the past? Maybe this horse needs a start or two to fire up with a big performance. We look towards the human connections, the jockeys, obviously the more experienced, the better going in to the Oaks on the Friday here this afternoon, the Derby tomorrow, because again, younger horses doing something for the first time out there at Churchill Downs underneath the Twin Spires where there's likely going to be in excess of 100,000 people on side. So experience matters, but don't get it twisted. Every horse going in to the starting gate at Churchill Downs has a chance to win, and they're going to give it their best performance.
Dubs, quick question also, because, again, I love the fact that we get somebody on who can actually explain the process going through. When we talk about Major League Baseball or the NFL, we know how those teams actually get to the playoffs through wins and losses. How do you actually qualify for the Kentucky Derby?
There's now a qualifying series, the road to the Kentucky Derby. We've got to pick up enough points to make it in to the top 20. We've got a couple of reserves that can also draw in. We saw this week Encino was a scratch for Brad Cox, so the also eligible makes it into the field. But it's now turned into the international game. We've got a couple of internationals. The Japanese runners have made their way by winning their qualifying races and picking up enough points to now make it across to Churchill Downs. So get enough points, shape up, pay that entry fee, and have your chance at a $5 million prize purse, as big as it's ever been, Donnie.
The Run for the Roses, the first race in the Triple Crown this summer, and the largest race of the three that we see in the Triple Crown. 20 horses in the field as of this moment, Dubsy. How does the size, the amount of horses in the Kentucky Derby field affect how the races run tomorrow at Churchill Downs?
You've got to get a lot of racing luck. You know, for a lot of these horses, they're exiting races where there was 9, 10, 12 runners going against, 9 a horse, something they just haven't done. I mentioned the noise and the atmosphere out on course. It's something that they've never experienced. We look at post position, the draw. It really depends on the run style, where you draw, if it suits or if it's a bit of a negative impact. I mean, the big buzz coming in for this week was the starting position 17 there. Fierceness, one of the favorites coming into the race, drew 17, 0 for 44 lifetime. But since Encino scratched, The 17 Fierceness now shifts across and will start from post position 16, but will still wear saddlecloth 17. So Fierceness just gets the sidestep that, I guess, that trend that we've seen over time there. And does have that early speed as well.
If we're taking a look at the Kentucky Derby, we'll get into some of the long shots and the best picks here, but I figure like it almost feels like the Super Bowl now, because it used to be in the past, you might get a couple races from the Kentucky Derby on TV, but now it seems like an all-day atmosphere and superstar after superstar after superstar showing up with a red carpet here. Talk about the day for you, and also you as betting the races. Do you enjoy the pomp and circumstance around the Kentucky Derby as much as the rest of us do?
I do. I mean, look at me, Donnie. I look like a marshmallow. I've got the whole bag of fruit on. We've got the pink jacket thing, the Kentucky Oak. But I think it's great. I think it's fantastic for the sport. Everyone getting into it. You'll make your mint juleps there tomorrow afternoon. And I guess on the wagering side of things, one thing that I would encourage, for bettors who may be thinking, well, I haven't really played the horses before. You can now play them at the FanDuel Sportsbook or through the FanDuel Racing app. Is today and tomorrow are going to see some massive prize pools. And I guess it's a little different than playing the football, the NBA, where you're going against the house. When you play the horses, it's pari-mutuel wagering. We're all going against each other. So if you can find a couple of strong opinions throughout today's card and tomorrow card, and you can hit on a couple of those, I mean, the return's going to be massive. I hit the superfecta last year for the Oaks coming up this afternoon, $100 investment, 16 grand coming back just because we went against a couple of favorites. And obviously got a bit of luck in that big one.
Look at that guy. That's how he bought that snazzy new pink jacket, looking good for the 2024 Kentucky Derby. Even after his days at SportsGrid, Dubsy got the memo. We wear jackets now on this network, a true pros pro. So, Dubs, let's look at the 2024 Kentucky Derby field and now actually talk about the horses. You mentioned the favorites. Fierceness drew post position 17, but now slides one over. Sierra Leone, second best odds in post position 2. How do you compare the favorites as they run the Kentucky Derby tomorrow?
I think Fierceness has every right to go off as the post-time favorite, and it's a bit of a redemption story from last year. It was Rapoli who had Fortes, the odds-on favorite, but was a game day scratch. Well, here he is again with Fierceness, trained by Todd Pletcher and Johnny Velasquez, the Hall of Famer, getting aboard for the ride. In terms of post position, I don't mind that. In terms of game plan, Fierceness will push forward. And from what we've seen going through the qualifying races, Fierceness is the superstar of the crop here. 3 wins from 5 starts with a ferocious performance last out in the Florida Derby. If we get that Fierceness again, going to be very tough to beat. But you look at the form cycle, just a little erratic. So I'm not sure if we can expect a bounce or more of the same from that last effort.
If we're taking a look at the racing, the general public loves a good long shot. You have a couple dollars down to win a couple hundred. Are there any long shots, Dubs, that you're looking at that might be able to crash the party here tomorrow?
I'm looking right next door. Batman and Robin. Fierceness will start alongside Stronghold. Stronghold coming across from the West Coast, trained by Phil D'Amato, and gets young pilot Antonio Frezu. What I like about Stronghold, the versatility. 6 starts at 6 different courses with 3 wins. In terms of the speed figures, should appreciate the further trip, the more distance. And I think Fierceness setting the table early, gets a nice little pace scenario. And where do we break the maiden? Right here at Churchill Downs. So for me, Stronghold, the 18 at a monster price for the Big Derby.
Dubsy looking at the long shots. Dubsy getting you set for the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby. It's the first Saturday in May, the most exciting 2 minutes in all of sports. Dubs, have a great Friday leading up to Derby Day, and enjoy the Kentucky Derby tomorrow. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, boys. Great to see you. Now I can't decide. Does the blue tie stay, or should it be a pink tie to match
No.
the jacket?
Oh, wow.
Blue looks beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Blue looks beautiful.
Pink
it's a great
pink.
compliment.
Ooh,
I can't
you
decide with the
sideways.
attire. You
I'm
look
spinning.
fantastic.
I'm spinning.
NBA
Good to see you, boys.
Up next.